this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay, Sarah. So our host Gabrielle is supposed to introduce you, and so we'll request you to go back in hiding. Video off so that she gives you that woo introduction.
Hello, hello, GM, everyone.
Hey, GM, you're right. You're right, brother. We can hear
Mr.
you
Brown,
loud and clear.
sorry. Thank you very much. It seems like the class have started already,
No,
right?
no, no. The class hasn't started. We're starting at
Oh,
7:05, which should be your 8:05. We are just waiting for a few people to come in so that we have a decent quorum, and then we start, okay?
all right, all right. I thought you've started because I've started seeing screen share. I thought the class is already going
No,
on.
no, no.
All
We
right,
are
thank you
just
very much.
testing. We're just testing, yeah?
All right. Thank you very much.
Cool. No worries, no worries. So, Gabby, when you're here is when I see the FLC girls, huh? Today I'm seeing Edith. I didn't see Edith yesterday. I'm seeing Edith is in the house. Ntabi Seng has been in the house. Who else? Who else? Let me see. Edith, it's so cool, you know. Yeah, but Edith, today we want to hear the FLC girls. Man, I've been begging the FLC girls to talk. I know y'all are intelligent as ever. So I need to hear some of my FLC girls speaking as well. You all see Gabby, and then that's when you want to start speaking. Hey, Najautu, what's up? Okay, let me do my usual round of shout outs. Okay. Hey, Gabby, big up yourself. Sarah, big up yourself. Abba, big up yourself. Ahmed, big up yourself. AMT Solar, big up yourself. Cyril, big up yourself. Dominique Butler, big up yourself. Edith Utete, big up yourself. AGO4 OBS, big up yourself. Fireflies AI, I don't know whether you should be recording your own thing, but anyway, big up yourself. Jason. Francis Ogidi, big up yourself. Jason Cassis, all the way from St. Lucia, who claims flying fish in St. Lucia more delicious than Barbados. Highly doubt, but big up yourself, Jason. King, big up yourself. Mercy, aka Kenya's in the building. 254 in the house. Kenya representing Mambo VP, Nairobi, Kenya. We are in the building. Moses, big up yourself. Najao to big up yourself. Nesta, ¿cómo estás? Nesta, buenos días.
Buenos días, ¿qué tal? Buenas tardes. Good afternoon.
Yeah, buenos. Right. Moses, big up yourself. Ntabi Sang, Obakeng, Oduma, Samuel Adeyeye, Shamsuddin, Yusuf Ajay, Yusuf J, big up yourself, everybody. We're starting in the next 5 minutes. whether everybody is in or not, the train starts. And as I keep saying, when the trumpet to heaven starts blowing, you don't wait for nobody. You go to the pearly gates by yourself. And that's all, Gabi.
That's right, Brian. So, and we'll definitely start in like 5 minutes. So excited to see everybody.
Yeah. You know,
So-
Gabby, you haven't been here for a few days now. I need to update you. In Nigeria, there's something called load shedding. Around that area of the world, South Africa, Nigeria, there's power rationing that happens, okay? So sometimes there's no electricity. That's why you'll see the Nigerian students coming in a bit later or something like that. But we still have mad love for them. The YouTube stream is streaming and they can catch the recordings over so and send them the slides and all that. So it's fine. They're still gonna catch up.
Fantastic.
All right,
Fantastic.
cool. Yeah.
We'll start shortly.
All right, cool. Hi, Winifred. Hi, Blondie. Hi, Zialul Haq. Lawal. Hey, Obakeng. Today you're really quiet, man. Obakeng, you's always representing, straight representing, you and Camilla. Where are you guys?
I'm here, I'm here, I'm
Yo,
here.
big up
Yeah,
yourself. Yo, brother, grab the mic, drop a shout out to everybody. Come on, man. Yo,
just sending a shout out from South Africa. Dumelang,
hey,
hoe
Dumela,
gaan het met die
Dumela.
mensen? Hoe gaan het met die mensen? Die kakaparitenka mona. That's Sotho for hello. Hey, what am I doing, man?
Hey,
I feel like
Obakeng.
this thing of not seeing people on
Okay,
camera.
listen. Whereabouts in South Africa are you from? I love South Africa. Joburg or Pretoria?
I'm based in the Northwest Province, actually. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's
bro,
close by.
that sounds far, man.
Yeah. It's like 2.5 hours drive away. But if
It's
you're really
towards
exploring it,
towards
it's
it's
an
is it
hour
towards
30.
the border? Is it towards the border for Botswana and Ting?
Nah. It's like smack dab. We're very central, It's a small town called Potchefstroom. So it's 1.5 hours away from Joburg. And then from Botswana, it can be like maybe a couple of 3, 4 hours getting to the border of
Yo,
Botswana.
big up yourself. Straight representing, man. Yo, like that's mad love. Big up yourself.
Thanks, Maji.
All right.
And it's just nice meeting everybody here. So
Yeah,
yeah, let's
brother.
keep it up and learning different languages. I'm even learning a few greetings from our interaction that we're doing.
Yeah, okay. Let's pick somebody from Nigeria. We want somebody from Nigeria to throw us a proper shout out, man. Somebody from Nigeria, just grab the mic. Come on, man.
Hey, yo, Mr. Brian, I'm Shamsuddin from Nigeria. Shout out to you, man. How about you?
Yo, pick up yourself, man.
Yeah, things are not that friendly here in Nigeria. This power outrage and stuff like that aren't easy, man. Guys are not coping well, but we still
Yo,
managed to be here.
bro, big up yourself. Can
Yeah.
I tell you my favorite Nigeria food? I love isieu and egusi soup.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm not actually from southern part of Nigeria. I'm actually from north. If you want to tell me what you like from the north, you might possibly say you like tuwo, you like shinkapa, you like doya and rest. So
Yeah, what's afang? Afang. Tell me what afang is. Maybe I've eaten it. I love Nigerian food, but it's too hot. Pepper. Mm-mm.
That one I Yoruba food, na Yoruba food. I just love pepper so much like that.
Hey, too much pepper.
Yeah, of course,
Yes,
of
so we
course.
are the pepper
Yeah,
people.
yeah. Yoruba people are the pepper people.
Hey, too hot, too hot, too
Yeah,
hot.
I'm Yoruba.
When you
Yeah.
hit pepper, pepper give you long life.
Mad
That's it. So we love
love,
the
man.
that side. So
Mad love.
southern
Yo,
part of Nigeria, if you want egusi, you want ishewu, anytime you visit Nigeria, we will load you with that. You will really enjoy it.
yo,
Sure,
there's
sure.
this other thing from Nigeria. Is it?
Yes.
I'll remember and I'll tell you guys.
Mr.
Okay,
Brian,
wait.
can you hear me,
Let's
please?
get a shout out from somebody in the Caribbean. You know, you Caribbean people, you try to be shy here. Let me see who's on here from the Caribbean. Jason, we're picking on you because we know you. Hello? Jason on mute. Okay. All right. Gabby, I think we can start now in the next because yo, what's up? Who's that speaking on the
That's
mic?
Jason from St. Lucia.
Yo, big up yourself. Yo, throw a shout out from St. Lucia and tell us the favorite food in St. Lucia, brother.
My favorite food, well, is green fig and saltfish, the national dish.
Ooh, saltfish, nice. Saltfish, real nice. With ackee?
No, Aki is Jamaica.
Oh, come now. Okay, cool.
Yeah, but if you come down to St. Lucia, you can get a nice steamed fish with a suskai. Suskai, that's house sauce. And you can get some good flying fish. You can get some big fry bakes. You can get some lubby. Lubby is what you call conch. You can get some
I know
buigo and
lambi.
a
Come
lot of
on,
good
brother. I've lived in Trinidad. I know lambi. Come on, don't tell me about lambi, man. I know about lambi.
different islands have different names for it, but lubby, yeah, is yeah.
Yo, but let me tell you, we have a special guest today for the guest lab. Adela, she's currently in St. Lucia as well. She's St. Lucian as well. So big up yourself, Dels. She's gonna be on the guest lab session.
Yeah, Adela
Hi, so
invited me to
I'm
this.
not solution, but I do live in solution.
Right. There you go. There you have it. Hey, someone from Kenya. I have to pick up on my countryman. Beatrice, I know you're from Kenya. Mercy, we've been on FLC together as well. Mercy, throw a shout out, man. Yo, my Kenyan people, yo, don't be like this, man. Okay, no love from Kenya. Camila, welcome to the building. Okay, Gabby, we're entirely in your
Hello.
hands right now. Hello,
Hi,
what's up?
Brian. This is Beatrice from Kenya.
Hey, Beatrice Mambo VP 254
Poa poa, karibu Kenya.
presenting, yo.
Oh, I love Kenyans.
Kenya,
You're
Mambo
most welcome.
Shwari, Mambo Safi, Kenya in the building, Kenya kwenye nyumba. Yeah.
Kabisa, kabisa.
Aya, sawa sawa. Let's
Okay.
now hand over to Gabrielle in the studio to start off this session. Gabby, you have to unmute your mic.
Hello, everybody. So first of all, since we've all been giving our cultural greetings, so I have to give my cultural greetings. So I'm from Barbados. So what we say in our Bajan dialect is, what going on, people?
What's going on, Gabby?
What's going on? All right. So what is happening? How are you guys doing? So in perfect English, that would be, what is going on? How are you guys doing this afternoon? So hello, everyone. My name is Gabrielle Gay. I'm the founder of the Erlen Bradshaw Foundation, and we are partners with the incredible Blockchain Lex Group, Fifth Work, Stacks, Crypto Mondays, all the incredible partners that have made No Long Ting the brainchild of Blockchain Lex Group come to life. And of course, I have to give a massive shout out to our FemLex cohort ambassadors as well, who are in the building. So it is my honor and privilege to deliver the welcome this evening or morning or night, wherever you are. But before we get into our welcome and introduction of our mentors today, guys, this is Friday, okay? So you have literally officially made it to the end of the first week in the Not Long Ting Bootcamp. If you're happy, if you're excited that you made it and completed the first week, put in the chat in all caps, I made it. Let me see some I made it in the chat, all right? Because you are 50%. Yes, Jason. Yes, Uncle Bang. Yes, Blockchain Let's Group. Linus, come on through. Celebrate yourself. But I made it. You are halfway there. And we are so proud of you. We are so excited to have you coming from all over the world to learn about all things Web3 and blockchain. And remember, there's Ideathon, all these amazing things coming up. So, who is in the building with us today? We will love and we're excited to welcome Sarah Adami Johnson. So, of course, she was with us earlier this week, but we have to reintroduce this phenomenon of a woman again. She is bringing the fire, and she's going to break down the legal and regulatory concepts of blockchain, NFT, and decentralized finance. So, who is Sarah? What does she do? Sarah is the Vice President of High Network Planning Services, International Estate, Art, and Digital Legacy Planning at the Royal Bank of Canada, Family Office Services, and she's an attorney with the State Bar of California. So she has worked with multiple institutions, Sotheby's Institute of Art. She's been involved with art disruption, NFTs, and holds a certificate from the European Institute of Sustainability. Listen, when we said that No Long Ting is bringing you the best of the best, we were not playing. And then coming on later in the program tonight for our wonderful guest lab, where we really delve into the topics that were discussed in the session, we have Adela. So Adela brings over 2 decades, all right, 2 decades of expertise in digital finance and cryptocurrency. And her significant contributions and experience make her an invaluable mentor for our bootcamp participants. So what are some of her highlights and experiences? She, get this, pioneered early Bitcoin ATM deployments at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Overstock. She's also a guest lecturer of crypto law at prestigious institutions such as the University of South Carolina and the George Washington University of the School of Business. And she has been actively participating in all things crypto, and she's a consultant to multiple intergovernmental organizations. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join with me. Put some claps in the chat. Put your hands together for Sarah and Adela Tolan Forrester, who will speak to us today. And let's give them a warm NLT welcome.
I have to say, I was never introduced like that. This is like, for the record, I'm gonna record and keep this recording and keep it for myself. Anytime I'm depressed, I'm gonna play this introduction because it's just so awesome. Thank you so much.
We love you, Sarah. We love you. Thank you so much for being so amazing. And go right ahead and take it away for the class today.
Awesome. Okay, so let me share my screen because I wanted to make sure that I could share some information that looked a little bit decent. So let me know. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it okay? Good. Good. Okay. So basically, I'm gonna go back to the basics for 30 seconds so that we know where we're gonna start from. And then go really deep into the NFTs, the DAO. I'm going to talk a little bit about LAOs as well, and Dunas, Draculas, or social, decentralized social networks, and give you a little bit of an update on the regulatory side and what's happening also with the intersection of blockchain and artificial intelligence. So as we seen and that you guys have seen this amazing week, you start from like, the crypto assets. So before ChatGPT, ladies and gentlemen, women, men were, humans were, men and women, humans were more intelligent than computers. And they found out that a computer can either be on or off. So one, on, off, zero. And they created this incredibly sophisticated computer sciences languages to communicate with the computer, to make the computer do things. Yeah, not just computing and not just moving cursors back and forth, but creating the internet, sharing information, Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. So how the computer actually understands reality, and this you will find it really important for your artificial intelligence, knowledge. But computers do not have eyes, right? They don't see reality. Therefore, we have to translate real things into computer languages. And so we said computers are really on and off. So we transfer categories in real life into computer language by using zeros and ones. And do not worry, there is an app for that. So there are general categories of things which are fungible. They can be owned at the same time by many different people. So in this example, a cat, a car, a house, cash, all of those things that can be owned and they're per se fungible. They're just general categories of things. And they all, have a string of zeros and ones that represent them. And then there are non-fungible or unique assets, which also can be tokenized. So in this case, my cat, Milo, either I have it or you have it. And even if we're married, I might have it on my own. We cannot just, split it in half. Otherwise, it would create something else than the whole of my cat. So these unique assets are actually represented, even though there are subcategories of general categories, they are represented by unique strings of numbers. So even if it's a cat, because it is my special cat, the computer will recognize it through a separate, string of numbers. And that is important to know because as we've seen, these assets that are now digital can be transacted. So you can transact fungible assets and non-fungible or unique assets through a decentralized technological platform, which is your blockchain. And we've seen that the blockchain came from, a ledger. It's a ledger technology. It really is. It takes into account, transfers of assets from one individual to another, one institution to another. The blockchain technology itself was started in 1996 by a gentleman at MIT, and today we have another guest from MIT by the name of Scott Stornetta. So it goes back a few years, well before Bitcoin. But the Bitcoin revolution basically sophisticated the system of the blockchain of the 1990s by really resolving three main problems, which was the problems of memorialization, so the permanency of data, and through inscription, the ability of having data that cannot be corrupted and can be safely transferred through encryption, so through a public key and a private key combination. Through the idea of resolving the so-called Byzantine general problem of the weak intermediaries by substituting a platform with a network of computers and giving a reward, making sure that the network can actually grow through this Bitcoin reward system, so that if you are exchanging your power to resolve the algorithm and you're part of the ecosystem, you get rewarded by the system itself through Bitcoin. And the Bitcoins, once they are mined or created, they can be generally exchanged, and they become a means of exchange and a storage of value per se on their own. What happens, from 2008, so from Satoshi Nakamoto to 2015 with the Ethereum and Vitalik Buterin, was the ability to create a blockchain that not only carries fungible token, so the token that have major categories and they can be fungible, but also the idea of having non-fungible applications. And today, in particular, we will look at this non-fungible application and smart contracts and really dive into what they are and how they work. So, I used this example the other day, but just to rehearse it, if you think of any blockchain as a train that goes really fast, every couple of minutes receives a new compartment, a new block of information that gets uploaded at the end. So it's a forever running train that gets updated and with new compartment every couple of minutes or so, depending which rail it belongs to. It runs on a rail, which is the blockchain network, and it's made, of a bridge. Is basically the bridge created by all the computers in the network. It will give you a ticket to play, which is really either represented by a Bitcoin or an Ethereum or an ETH or a Solana or whatever it is, the other cryptocurrency that adds the energy that fuels the entire rail system that makes the train and propels the train forward. And then inside the train, we have the luggage, which is depending if it's transferring or transporting or ledgering fungible tokens or non-fungible tokens, it would have a different name. That's the best understanding of this. Now, to get onto the train, you have to generally pay a gas fee. If you are on a Bitcoin mechanism, you just give up power for it, but you get rewarded by your Bitcoin. So in the world of fungible tokens, right, the tokens that are all the same, that have all the same string of, to the same string of ones and zeros to recognize them. So the world of like the Bitcoin, the Solana, of the ETH, all of these cryptocurrencies are fungible. We have different types, right? We have, for example, and that's called the DeFi system because it's decentralized financialization. So it's decentralized because we don't have an actual central bank that creates, mints this coin, but we have those blockchains that can either mint or mine their own fungible tokens. So there are all these different fungible tokens that are called cryptocurrencies. OpenAI just came up with their own. It's called the WorldCoin, and it's based on their own iris scanning or proof of identity protocol. And then we have stable coins. So stable coins is different than cryptocurrency that are originated through a specific blockchain because they are representative of other coins. And normally what calls a stable is that they are a one-to-one ratio between the stable coin, the ETH, for example, and some other reference coin. And that could be either the US dollars, it could be a wrap or a wrapper of different cryptocurrencies. It could be an algorithm. So depending on what is the underlying coins to which it is the value of the stable coin is really attached to, you will have different type of stable coins, right? So they could be algorithmic stable coins, they could be synthetic stable coins, or they could be fiat based stable coins. So for example, the Naira is a stable coin that is based on the value of the Nigeria fiat. You can have the ruble stable coin, you can have the Chinese stable coin that is based on the Chinese currencies, and so on and so forth. Now, separate from those, there are CeFi cryptocurrencies, and the CeFi cryptocurrencies are called CBDC. And what differentiates them is that these coins are running on a separate train, and that train is centralized. It's run, those coins are created, they're created by a central bank, and each central bank, ideally in the world, could create their own. The only CeFi that we know of, there are a few, but and there are a few in design mode. The US is looking at one, the Euro is looking at another, but the real difference is the center and of power of creation of these coins is now into a central bank. And so it's not a decentralized system anymore. It introduces some kind of a instability or a weakness, because now you have a centralized producer. So fungible tokens. So we just talked about cryptocurrency, which are all fungible, right? They're all the same. They're all fungible. You cannot distinguish between the $1 bills that you have in your pockets. They're all fungible tokens. But you can distinguish maybe between a dollar bill and a piece of art, right? Those are unique assets that are completely different. So a non-fungible token or an NFT is an armor. Think of it as the ability to automized transfer of assets. So think of the NFT itself as basically what's built, like an armor, like an armature, or a certificate, or a program upon which you can upload information about real or digital assets that are stored somewhere else. So NFTs are interesting property because they are smart contract. So now, every time you hear the word smart, you have to take that word and substitute it with the word self-executing. And every time you hear the word contract in this context, you take it away and put the word program. They are self-executing program. Okay, so there are pieces of code that self-execute. So that should remind you of a very simple old style machine like this one that you see here, a vending machine that had the ability that when you insert a token or a dollar, you get, well, for $1 right now, I don't know what you can get, but let's say you put $3 and you get a Coke, right? The same thing for the NFT. If you pay the money requested by the contract, you will get title to the piece of art. So the NFT itself is the enforcer of the contract. Is not the contract itself. It's the program that allows you to transfer assets in between. And so, to point in case, the NFT itself, then, as you know, is not the art, right? So every time we say, oh, I bought an NFT, meaning I bought a piece of art with the NFT, that's actually not correct. When you buy an NFT, you buy the program that certifies that you actually own an underlying assets, which could be a digital art or a physical art. What you own is the picture of it, right? So I wanted to give you an example. The code that you see here is actually the NFT. The NFT is a code. It's a program-based, piece of data. In the code itself, you have a JSON file, those blue lines that you can click, right? And when you click that in the JSON file, boom, a files opens up. And in the files, you get your digital picture, which is the JPEG of your either digital art or real art. And then you get a legal contract. If, your client has spoken with tech lawyers that had told them to do that and to put the legal contract. And that legal contract in there will have what is the law applicable to the NFT, to the art. What is the royalty payment? The minimum royalty payment. You could have could you go to arbitration and all the other things that are typical of a contract. The two of them, the picture of the digital art or the real art, and the contract or whatever other data is in there, gets saved and uploaded to either an IPSFS system, an interplanetary stellar system, or on a server somewhere. That file is saved and then it gets uploaded into the code.nft. So you realize it. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry for interfering. Yeah, you remember we have our Muslim brothers and sisters who have prayers. Could you just hold your presentation so that they go and have their prayer time? Al Hassan, you just want to drop in a message and say, is 10 to 15 minutes sufficient? If it's not, you'll just tell us when you're coming back. So you guys can go for your prayers, please. We can have some Q&A in the interim. Franklin, I see your hand up. You want to say something, please? Let me unmute you.
Hello, good evening, Sarah.
Good evening.
Nice teaching.
Yeah,
Thank you
15
so
minutes
much.
for prayer is good. Thank you, Camila. 15 minutes is good. Thank you so much.
Shout out to you, Sarah. Your explanation is wonderful. Please, I have a question. There was a time I was chilling with some of my friends back, and they said something like, he said something like, "Hey, bro, can you just put your money in smart contracts, or something like that." I was kind of lost, actually. You understand? It was my first time coming across the word smart contract. So I was so interested in that word, smart contracts. Like, is there a money they are making out of there or something like that? If you can help me do some touchings, please. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a great question. Thank you. I'm cognizant of time, so I had to cut out some of the details. So thank you for bringing this up. What in the world is in that word smart contract? So first of all, I have to tell you that the inventor of that world was this super famous scientist that worked on the blockchain, and he decided he was a computer scientist, and he decided that at one point he wanted to go to law school. Okay, and so you have a computer scientist going to law school and becoming a lawyer, and all of a sudden he's exposed to all these ideas and all these names such contract and redemptions and liability and fiduciaries and all this other stuff. So he stole the word contract, and he literally stole that understanding from that world and completely taken it and put it in the blockchain verbiage and consciousness and zeitgeist, but literally has nothing to do with the contract. He wanted to somehow bring to life the fact that there was a sense of enforceability and duty and liability, and if you know contract law, I'll give you the really quick one. So you have an offer, you have an acceptance, you have a meeting of the mind where the magic happens. So okay, I want to sell my painting for $50. I want to buy, the other guy want to buy my painting for $50. We negotiate a price, and then we're meeting the mind, so we find that magic moment in which we agree, and then there is a payment that is made, right? So I get my $50, you get the title to my piece of art. He was in love with this idea of this mechanism of agreement and enforcing and automating that agreement with numbers, with math. So that's where the whole idea of a contract came from. It has nothing to do with a real legal contract, right? Like the legal contract could be inside that file, but it's not the NFT. The NFT is really what smart contract means, is that it's a self-executing program, and it's a self-executing program that really enforces or bring that agreement, that contract to life, right? To life. And it could be a contract for anything. I could be selling you digital art, I could be selling you tokens, I could be selling you a car, my Mini Cooper. It could be ended up in a smart contract. I'll just write into that program, into that NFT program, I just code whatever it is, the asset, the token that I want to transfer to you. I put a price on it, and as soon as your wallet transfer enough ETH to me, then that asset gets transferred to you. So I know it's confusing, but that's where it comes from. A very geeky computer scientist that went to law school.
I
I don't know.
understand now. I understand now. Thank you very much. Shout out to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Great question.
Awesome explanation, Sarah. I love that. I love that. It really speaks to,
Sarah, you did explain. Come on, buddy.
I think it really speaks to
That was a shout out. He said you explained it well.
absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. And I think it really speaks to the intersection between, law and technology, and how easily those two industries and arenas can come together. So let's go back to the questions. Okay, Olanaruji, come through. Your hand is up. Unmute yourself. Okay, let me ask you to unmute and ask your question. Go right ahead.
Good evening, Sarah. Good evening. So happy for having you tonight. Please, I just wanted to throw some light. You're talking about fungible tokens. We have the DeFi and the CeFi. I want to use Nigeria as a case study. We have what we call Inera, and at some time there's this little discrepancies. Some people are saying it is centralized. Some people are saying it is decentralized. I don't know whether you've heard about INEA, cause of course it has failed in Nigeria. But I want you to help me throw more light. Can we call it a kind of centralized token or decentralized token? Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I haven't heard specifically of that, and I'm not sure if that, my earpiece may not capture the exact thing.
Sarah,
But
it's the e-Naira. It's a CBDC.
oh, the CBDC. Yes. Okay, the Naira. Yes. So it's very interesting because the CBDC is anything that is actually controlled and created by the central bank, right? A centralized bank. So it has to be government created, right? And it has to be controlled in the mining, right? The mining of it has to be controlled, or minting on it has to be controlled, depending on which blockchain are they on. So if the e-Naira, in this case, is government produced, then it would be a C5 product, right? And that's the difference between that and a stable coin, where there is just a coin that is part of the DeFi ecosystem, but somehow is related to a fiat or to another digital currency. So imagine a stable coin that is connected to the e-Naira. It's something completely different, because in this case, this specific stablecoin as not being created by the government, is created by the ecosystem, is created by a network that is a private network, or it's open, but it's not government owned, right? That's the biggest difference. So if your e-Naira is created by the central bank in Nigeria, it's the government-led currency, then that's a CFI product. If it is a stable coin that is either related to a fiat currency in Nigeria or related to a digital currency in Nigeria that is created by a government agency, then it's part of the DeFi protocol. So really, you have to look at who are the agents that are working within the ecosystem. I hope I answered your question.
Fantastic. I love that. And going back to chat, we have Mercy Aluak, and she has a question. So she said, "Hi, Sarah. If a person sells an NFT, does the person lose ownership of the NFT or just the possession of it? So does it mean that the original owner loses the IP over the NFT?" Thank you, Mercy.
Okay, so thank you. That is such a great question. So let's talk a little bit about IP, and the IP of art. So generally, and I'm a lawyer, so the thing that you will hear from lawyers is always like, it depends, and it really, in this case, it depends. So generally, anyone who creates a piece of art has a copyright, as copyright on it. And copyright in itself is a bundle of rights, right? And as a
Sorry, Sarah. I'm gonna mute everybody, and then Sarah, you're gonna unmute yourself. Guys, please keep your mics on mute, all right?
Okay, so it's a bundle of rights, right? So and it's basically your own monopoly over your creation, right? So you have the right to reproduce it, you have the right to sell it, you have the right to copy it, you have the right to print it and sell it. It's basically a full monopoly over the copying and the commerce, the commercialization of your art. So generally, and this is even without the NFT, when an artist sells a piece of art to somebody, it only gives a limited personal license, so that you own the piece of art, you own the picture, or the digital or real art, but you only own a license to use it for yourself. So if you own that thing and you want to create, t-shirts with the picture of your digital thing, and sell it to the world, you cannot do it, because generally you only have a limited personal use license, right? if you want to produce it and sell t-shirts on it, you actually have to get permission from the artist, and the permission comes in two ways. It either, he gives you it really transfer the IP to you completely, so it sells the IP to you, or it license the commercial IP to you, and then you have to pay him back some royalties for the privilege of doing that, right? So it's a contract, it's a separate contract. So going back to the NFT, what do you get when you get title to a work of art that is unique in an NFT certificate? Well, generally, you get a limited personal license to view it, to display it in your home, to have it on your, as your own. I'll show you mine. I have a limited license to have it as my personal background on my phone, right? This is an NFT piece of art. I have the certificate, but I can only personally use it. I cannot make copies of this and try to sell it as, a wallpaper for other people to use it without having the specific permission of the artist. And I know that because in the NFT that I bought that was connected to this picture, right, there was a contract in there that specified what kind of IP rights I got when I purchased that specific NFTs. So there was an actual legal contract that says, okay, you get the picture is yours. However, you have limited personal use rights for IP. If you want to, create a restaurant and put this on the top of the restaurant, you have to get a different license and you have to pay royalties to the artist. Now, I'm saying that was specific to that contract that I bought to my certificate, because in the very super famous CryptoPunks and the Yuga Labs that you probably have heard in 2021, they actually gave a full commercial license. So you could have actually opened a restaurant with your CryptoPunk picture. You could have made t-shirt, you could have sold it, because the Yuga Labs and the CryptoPunks guys actually opened it up. So those kind of digital art that was sold through those NFTs were actually sold under a CC0 or a zero copyright or a common open commons license that allowed anyone who bought it to actually use it and commercialize it and make money on it. This is why they exploded, because you would have there was a guy that was opening up a sandwich store using one of the crypto guys profiles, or they were selling their profiles on mugs, because also those profiles pictures were limited in number, right? So there was a scarcity built in that really helped with the commercialization of these assets. So it really depends, and my best suggestion would be really hire somebody. If you cannot read the code, NFTs are written, the code is Solidity. I don't know if you guys are coders, or if you ever Python, Java, HTML, like those old codes. The new codes used by NFTs is called Solidity, and it's a very difficult language, but I would encourage you to have a look and then see if you can read the metadata, and in that JSON file, the compressed file that points to the picture, because there are details over the IPUs in that metadata. I hope
No, that is absolutely fantastic, because I love that you took the time to break down the process, because many times you have experts in the field who say, oh, just make sure to check the license. But how? Right? That's right. People that are like, and many of our participants here, many of whom are learning or just learning about Web3, it's like, but how do I do that? And I love that you got to not only the what, which is checking the contract, seeing what it says, but you also spoke to the how, right? Ensuring that you understand the code or getting someone to assist you with the code. That is such vital information, Sarah. Thank you so much for that. Okay,
Gabby,
you've had your hand up for a while.
Gabby, I have a question.
Sure.
And Sarah, this goes out to you, right? Because you have a presentation to finish. and it's now becoming more guest lab as opposed to presentation. And I'm not a cock blocker. I'm just asking, do you want to exhaust your slides? And then we proceed into the guest lounge, unless these people have really burning questions. I think they can wait for the guest.
Brian,
Whatever you
can
want.
I say
Del,
something?
what you say? Oh,
Yeah,
Sarah, have you met Adela? Let me pin her here as well.
Greetings, Adela.
Wait.
Shout out to Sarah. Listen, I've been in the space for, I would say, 20 years. Crypto space for, oh, yeah, no, really, the crypto space for about 14 plus years, as a matter of fact. And you are breaking down things for me in a way that I'm just absolutely astonished. Things that I feel like I sort of just know, but I've never really attempted to, explain. And wow, your fire for this is just, it's fantastic. I just wanted your shout out. Just, this is great.
So, Sarah, you're studying. We are all stunned. Okay.
I don't know.
So let me ask Olan Riwaju and Suleiman. Just type if it's pressing. These questions, if they're pressing, type P on the chat. If they can wait for the guest lab, just type W, because we are almost into 8 p.m. and today is such an exciting session. Yeah, it's W's. They can wait. Olan Raju, you're saying P? Really? It better be worth the P, okay? Okay, Olan Raju, take the mic. It better be worth the P if it's really pressing. Okay, let me unmute you, Olan Raju.
All right, thank you so much for for
And
the
Olan
opportunity.
Raju, if it's not pressing, I'm gonna mute you, all right?
All right. Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool.
Well, actually, my question is there a centralized body that regulates the enforcement of NFT, and how can it be regulated? I mean, the global compliance for it. Taking for instance, as a real estate project money developer, and I intend establishing an NFT for my products. So how can I go about creating an NFT for that? That's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, so let me answer it this way. So first of all, let's let's go back to like the little basic thing that we saw at the start. So the NFTs are for unique assets, right? So normally a centralized chain or a government based blockchain, again, remember, blockchains are ledgers, right, are interesting fungible assets, right? And the reason why they're interesting fungible assets is because they're fungible. They're like currencies. They become means of exchange because they're not unique, right? So I would say it's not that you cannot do it. You absolutely can. Like the beauty of Ethereum is that it's an open architecture system. It's the one that allows for NFTs to be created and uploaded on top of it. The Bitcoin doesn't have that, and maybe I can talk a little bit about what the Bitcoin has just to differentiate it. But if you really are thinking about NFTs and you create NFTs, of course you can just code an NFT. You have to create your rail. You can use one of the Ethereum rails. Create your program, and again, the program is anything that has if this happens, then that happen. That's the logic. So I'll give you a real example. Okay, I wrote a paper on offshore trust. Okay, this sounds really crazy, but follow me. So I wrote a paper on offshore trust, and one of the great things about offshore trust, I know there are some people here from the Caribbean, is that they have what's called firewall jurisdiction. So they have laws in their on their islands that says that they do not recognize decrees that are from judges that are outside the Caribbean system. So imagine, you have a trust and you have some assets and you go bankrupt in the United States, and in California, a judge said, okay, I'll give you, this decree, and this decree says that your creditor can go after your assets, but the assets are in the Caribbean, and there is a firewall. There is a law that says the Caribbean judge does not recognize that California decree. What I did I created an NFT, right? I, you know, literally, I coded an NFT that it for the trust, for the Caribbean trust, that basically automatically, as soon as these assets was attached with an ask or a decree from a foreign jurisdiction, it would lock it down. It would not allow it to be transferred. So you can use NFTs. This is just an example to show you that you can use NFT. Now, for that to actually becoming a reality, I would have to create a blockchain, right? I would have to create a mechanism for that trust to actually make it workable, right? So there are other pieces of the puzzle that needs to be built around that NFT. The NFT doesn't exist by itself. Remember, the NFT is that luggage that you put on top of a train. You have to create the rail, you have to create the train, the protocols and the rules, but then you can put your NFT in there, and the NFT can automate. Remember, it's an enforcer, it's a protocol enforcer. So the NFT can actually automate anything that you want to have automatically self-executing, right? So I'll leave it like that, but I hope I answered your question.
Fantastic! So our participants have returned from period time, and wonderful answers, Sarah. So concise and to the point, and I'm sure our participants have left with even more knowledge. So now, if you are ready for Sarah to get back to her presentation and to exhaust her slides, drop "I'm ready" in the chat. If you're ready to hear some more from Sarah, let's see some "I'm ready." Okay, Sarah, take it away. If you go back to screen sharing, back to your slides.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen again. Okay, give me a second. Okay, voila. Okay, can you see me? And I'm gonna move it back. Can you see me? Can you see the slide?
Yes, Bitcoin's ordinals on chain art.
Yes. So I wanted to show you this one before going back to my regular presentation, because I want to really make a distinction for you guys between NFTs and Bitcoin or fungible token art. So we saw this, right? This is the NFT code. It has a JSON blue line, and when you click on the blue line into your NFT, boom, it opens up the JPEG of the art with ideally the contracts. It could be just a JPEG of the art, right? This is an NFT. This is a non-fungible token. So it's something that as soon as you pay enough money, the title and ownership of that certificate will move from my wallet to your wallet. Okay. Now, can you have art on fungible token? So as we know, fungible token, in this case Bitcoin or Satoshis, are exactly the same. So think about your dollar, right? You can have a dollar, I can have a dollar, anybody can have $1 bills. They're all the same, right? Now, how do you make art on that dollar? How do you make that dollar special? Well, there is a way to make it special, and it's called an ordinal. So an ordinal is a special Bitcoin, or in this case, a Satoshi, that gets layered up with a file of a digital art. Okay. And the way that it does is that the Satoshi gets literally inscribed. So there is a piece of code, in this case of this picture, that gets inscribed, and it's part of that Satoshi program. Okay, so it becomes inside the Satoshi program. So think about it. How do you make your $1 bill special? Well, you create a poem on it. You put your phone number. Not that you should put your phone number, but in this case, it's Halloween soon, so I give you this Batman a $1 bill. Can you still use that $1 bill to pay for gas or to go get gum? Yes, you can, and that's why you have to be very careful here, because fungible tokens are always fungible. They're always the same. So to be able not to accidentally spend the ordinal token, the one that has the special art on it that costs you maybe a few $1,000s to get, you have to keep it separate in a special wallet. Okay, that's the only way that you can recognize which tokens are there in the Bitcoin that are special, that are with unique assets embedded into it, and the one that are not. Now, you can also understand that the difference here is that here the art and the data is stored off chain, right? It's stored offline. It's stored either on the artist's computer or the IPFS system, is somewhere else. Here, the data is layered into the token. So we have now ordinals and art that is actually on chain. It's not off chain, is on chain. And you can actually transfer the art piece from your wallet to another wallet, when you transfer your Bitcoin. So I just wanted to make sure that you have this as your, because things get a little bit, complex. Now, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to finish up with some case studies. So on Wednesday, we talked about, how NFT can be used. Well, in California, at the DMV, NFTs are used when you're getting your driver license. So you actually get an NFT with your driver license information embedded into it. Now we know what it is, right? You get a digital certificate that has a JSON file that has metadata regarding your how tall you are, if you need glasses to drive, and if you had any if you any running with the police and anything like that is stored automatically on that NFT in your driver license. Another way was to buy and sell real estate. You can buy and sell real estate through contracts, real contracts, but you can make the payment automatic through an NFTs. And I've seen that done. The underlying assets in this case is real estate, but the contract is actually self-executing once the party have decided on a certain price. NFTs are really important for maintaining the authenticity and provenance of luxury items. So the bags, your real Tiffany jewelry, your fancy upscale sneakers. By adding an NFT to it, anytime that you sell your sneaker, that NFT gets automatically updated, and not only makes the transaction secure, but it keeps the authenticity of the assets, completely safe. Now, just to make it a little bit more complicated, we talked about all these NFTs are completely, transferable. I can send titles of something from me to you, but there are actually special tokens, special NFT tokens that are not transferable, and those are called sold bound token, or SBTs. Those tokens are one of a kind token per se, because the data, the metadata uploaded into them regards untransferable information such as your academic degrees, your doctorate degrees, your credit verification, your criminal history, your medical information, all of that metadata, and your academics. So, we had some politicians that openly lied about having gone to certain Ivy League schools or belonging to certain religious affiliations. Well, if we could have verified exactly where they went and what school they went through an SBT tokens, these tokens follow you for life. So they're not made to be transferred, they're made to be kept into your wallet. And the memorialization of this information is absolutely, because it's on a decentralized system, it cannot be corrupted, at least not that easily. Decentralized autonomous organization, those are imagine their partnership. So you and I and Gabrielle can all make a partnership, and we can get together and decide, okay, we want to buy the Constitution of the United States or some other, a beautiful piece of art or antiquity, and we pull our resources together, and we can do that by going to the state and register our partnership, or we can create a token, right? An NFT token that actually represents our general partnership. Now, legally, this general partnership is treated as a general partnership, so we're all responsible and liable for anything that the partnership does from a legal perspective, because it's just a decentralized autonomous organization. But it has an embedded governance that works as the NFT, so that when we reach, if we're trying to buy the Constitution at an auction, when it reaches a certain price, the NFT will get it, will be deployed, and the asset will be in our roster, in our ledger, right? Now, there is a couple of other things that you should know about decentralized organization. There is one that is called the LAO. And the reason that the LAO, the limited liability autonomous organization, limited liability autonomous organizations are available in the United States, specifically in Wyoming. And I would, if you're passionate about this and you want to actually take that sample into your own country, I would look at Wyoming as one of the best, more progressive states, because they actually have legislation around how you can organize limited liability tokens, right? So again, the governance is all pre-programmed in the token, but then you can register it so that legally the partners now will have limited liability. And the other great organization are called DUNA, or decentralized unincorporated non-profit organizations. So now you have non-profit charities and non-profit groups that can organize themselves literally across the world by using a blockchain and be part of a pre-programmed governance that in this case does charity work and does good in the world. So I'm not going to go a lot in the metaverse. I just wanted to mention, and maybe I can click off this. I just wanted to mention a couple of other things that has to do with Dracula and social networks. There are disintermediated social networks. There are a few of those. The one that is more fun to me is Dracula, because we're at Halloween and they have Dracula points and blood points, blood currency. So these are actually social platforms. So think of your Instagram or your Etsy or your Tumblr, if it still exists out there. These are social media platforms that are completely disintermediated. So you download the code, and then you can start interacting with people, sharing pictures, sharing likes, points, ideas through the exchange of that specific currency, which is the Dracula blood, which is like minimal, but it allows a completely disintermediated, deplatformed social interaction and social reality. And these new social groups are exploding. They're everywhere. And I can send you 3 or 4 different names for the groups and what they do, if it's more artsy or if it's more fashion based, or there's some religious one that you can get into it. But basically the idea is really having a deplatformed social network. So I'm gonna pause right there to see if there are any questions, and then we can look at some of the ideas, how and why, for example, the blockchain has become really important during the election, or I can answer any other questions. I leave it back to Gabrielle.
Awesome. So once again, incredible explanations. So we have a question right now in the chat. So Najatu Muhammad wants to know, can NFTs be used for NGO fundraising? And then we also have a very interesting question as well that's asking if there's a way to, I guess, form unity and partnerships with regards to like religious organizations and religious rituals, or to me, I think what they're asking if the partnerships in the religious arena as well can be formed with an NFT.
Yeah. So let me bring it to this level. So NFTs again, you have to think of an NFT as an enforcer, right? As a certificate of self-execute. So depending on what what kind of governance you wanted to execute, you can get it. Like if you can imagine, and you can code it, right? So again, if it is something that you can transfer, it has to be, that is the way that you transfer title, or you transfer assets, or you make things come to life automatically, right? That's what the NFT does. It's the enforcer of an underlying agreement, or an underlying set of parameters. Now, from the execution, so from the DAO is a token that works with three things: a Discord account, because you get to get people together. So if you want to create a DAO or an organization, a partnership between multiple people anywhere in the world. So you will have to create a Discord because you have to be able to communicate between people. You have to come up with the idea of how can people participate and own a piece of the token. So you have to come up with a token management, because you have to have access to the token to have access to the group, right? And then you will have to figure out, okay, what's the mission, right? And then if the mission is purchase art, finding groups that are similarly minded and have concerts, for example, organize concerts for certain things, or it depends on what is it that you want it to do. It's like any other organization, but the idea that it's not anymore physically organized, but it's decentralized. So it runs on a decentralized platform. So anyone that finds you, and this is why the Discord is so important, and agrees with the platform and the rules of engagement for the governments, can actually participate. It just buys into it. And then if it is a DUNA, so if it's a non-profit, right, a decentralized, unincorporated, non-profit organization, so if it's a DUNA, then instead of raising money for, you would have to somehow get it registered to get, your non-profit status if you wanted to be able to give receipts. And then these tax receipts would be automatically enforced by the NFT in your DUNA, right? So the NFTs are tools that are used by decentralized organization, depending on what type of organization it is, to execute whatever it is that the group is doing.
Fantastic. So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, NFTs can be utilized for a multitude of things, but you have to be very specific with regards to the purpose. And I love the fact that you mentioned, Sarah, the need for still real world application. So if you want to use it for your NGO, you still have to register your NGO as a legal entity. These things are still important, right? Even though technically that for us, for example, in Barbados, we would register our charities and our NGOs with what we call TIPO, which is our intellectual office here in Barbados. So while yes, we're supporting the Web3 and we love the innovation, ladies and gentlemen, Sarah is giving you good advice. Don't forget to ensure that you're in good legal standing with your organization before you head over to the blockchain to revolutionize in that regard. So we've got a question here from Jason, and he says, he's asking, could NFTs be used to pay commission? So let's say an artist image that is converted to an NFT, and then I take ownership and pay them a fixed commission every time, or can I pay them a fixed commission every time that piece of art is licensed or sold?
Yeah, so that's really great. Those are called royalties, and one of the reason why the NFTs really took off in the art world, especially in the United States, is because you can actually set a level of royalties that are paid. And what happens is that because they are self-executing, let's say the artist sold for 30 ETH, 0.1% or 5% of that ETH that you get in your wallet, that are actually automatically distributed to a different wallet, which is the wallet of your artists, right? So you can code which wallet should the royalty be paid into it. And normally what we tell the artist actually is have two wallets. One wallet for the first sale, like the primary markets where you actually, holding on inventory of art, and one wallet where you actually keep track of your royalties and what you get back in the secondary sales of the images that you already sold. And the reason is accounting. There is a tax. I mean, the fact that it's these are digital assets doesn't mean they're not taxable, right? So you have to be very, very careful keeping track of the income that you're getting and where it comes from, and what is the exchange at that date between the ETH that you get and the fiat currency of your country to realize, okay, this is how much I made this year from these royalties, and this is how much income tax I have to pay. So yes, it absolutely can be written into the code. The range is between zero something, 0.5, 0.2% to 5, 10, 15%. I have to tell you, there was a pushback by, believe it or not, collectors, because they were like, well, wait a second, now I have to pay this extra, but I wanted, I don't want it, because when the collector sells, they only gonna get the net of these commissions, money going out to different people, right? So they were like, if 50%, if 15%, comes out from the top, then I would have to either inflate the prices. So there was a lot of, discussion in the collection, in that ecosystem of the art world about these royalties. But I have to tell you, this is why it was so important in America, because in America there is no droit de suite, there is no commission that gets paid to an artist on secondary market. Whether in Europe, for example, there are certain countries that have it, like Italy has it, and I think it's 4%, and France has it. The problem in the real world is to actually enforce it. This is why having it in an NFT is fantastic, because it automatically happens. So there is no artist that will actually have to look around and figure out, where is my work? When was it resold? Most of the time, the art transaction is private, besides sometimes when it gets into auction. But can you imagine an artist trying to get, first of all, even in the auction, it's really difficult to know who is the buyer, because it's on the phone or underneath, a magic layer of secrecy. So how do you get to enforce your right to a royalty, whether if it was in an NFT? That piece of art title cannot pass unless the NFT goes with it. So there is an automatic enforcement of that payment.
Sarah, quick question. Not question rather, but Jason has been having a burning question since yesterday around this area of intellectual property. And then on my part as well, the things that you do for STEP, the succession stuff, not many people do it, or not many people understand that crypto is now relevant when it comes to divorce proceedings or succession planning and all that. Could you take us through that, especially so starting off with Jason's burning area of concern in terms of IP, copyrights and patents, and then into the area of succession and all?
Yeah. So, Jason, do you want Jason to ask me the question, or do you want me just to talk in general about
Yeah,
IP?
and Sarah, Gabby, sorry for jumping in. Have you exhausted your slides?
Yes, my slides are
So
done.
you're
I
ready
mean,
for the test lab as well? Okay, cool. So Gabby, you can do the segment intro and call on to Jason to do his question and whatever. Let me add Dells onto the screen then.
Absolutely. So, first of all, before we get into the guest lab, ladies and gentlemen, let's drop some claps in the chat for Sarah, okay, for her magnificent presentation, okay, and taking us through the intricacies of all things Web3, a blockchain, contracts, answering all of your questions so wonderfully. Let's drop some clap emojis in the chat. All right. And if you are ready for the guest lab, okay, with both Sarah and Adela, drop "I'm ready" in the chat. Let's see some "I'm ready's" in the chat, okay? Because now we're going to give you the knowledge as we bring Adela to answer questions and discuss all things Web3 and blockchain with our NLT founder, Brian. Okay, the claps and the "I am ready" are coming through. So I'm going to now turn over the moderation to Brian. Brian, thank you so much for having me. Sarah, it's been so incredible to meet you.
Thanks,
Adela,
Gabby.
it's been fantastic to meet you as well. It's been a pleasure to host and moderate the first portion of this session. And now you can take it away, Brian, for the guest lab. Thank you for having me, guys.
Guys, not me doing this after just getting over the flu right now and Sarah's energy. So this is gonna be an uphill, absolutely uphill battle. But I kind of, it's funny because I actually have a question for Sarah. Um, this has actually been being a point of noodling on my mind for a while. And I wanted to ask you because this is based on a project that I started work on in 2017. Do you think the courts will move from that PDF standard to a smart contract standard?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and it's a live question everywhere. Let me answer you with reality. So, budget. So does the core system have the budget to actually create their blockchain? So you have to create the rails, right? You have to create the rails to build, an NFT ready ecosystem. And you have to have the courts to buy into it. But not only that, they have to be accessible to the public. So it has to be a really good governance, as to really good rails. They have to spend some money to get the right engineers, right? So you gotta have the budget to get into the system. I can tell you that, for example, in my province, I live in British Columbia in Canada, we allow for PDFs for wills that are locked down, and then we allow for it to be uploaded onto a registry. So the first maybe step to get into the blockchain would be to actually upload that registry into a blockchain, right? And so the first step is update the PDF, centralized system into a blockchain system. And then now that you have the ecosystem, then you can probably make it to be okay. So it could be that a petition, once you have all the parties signed and all this other stuff, a petition gets automatically self-executed, right, into a decree. So you're losing paperwork, you're losing steps that needed to be done, and you're automating, the process of a claim, the process of damages, even the process, in a criminal court, the hearing that needs to be done. So all of this thing could be actually automated through a really, an NFT type of, ecosystem, but there has to be a blockchain built first. So it's not a no. It's like when and where is the appetite from a government perspective? Because legislation and there has to be legislation for it and a budget, and then there has to be an appetite from the judiciary, so education for the judges, education for the staff, and the actual availability to get onto the blockchain system.
All right,
Yeah,
excellent.
no, and PDFs are they're bad. They are a static format. So they
Nels,
require manual.
your mic is muffling a bit, yeah? You're now on mute.
I'm sorry, I have Caribbean internet. Is that better?
Yeah, much.
Excellent. No, I was saying, PDFs bad. PDFs are a static format. They require manual intervention for updates, for edits, for additional signatures. When legal processes involve changes over time, it just becomes cumbersome to manage multiple versions of the same document, or add the extra layers of approval. And it is my view that the courts will eventually move to such a system. I know it's always been a long game, but I don't know if there are any groups at this point that is working on something like this or an initiative like this at the moment, but it would be nice. Do you know if who's working on something like this? Or
Yeah, this is interesting. I have heard through the grapevine, I've heard that there were groups that were moving for the homeless initiative, especially in California, and they were looking at some, creating some kind of an NFT system, for this. So if you're homeless, right, you have to apply to get a bed, and then you have to go to the sector at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to secure that that bed is there. And there are so many people that either they're out looking for jobs or they have children, it's just a matter with the kid, and they just can't make that 3 o'clock. And so the bed is given to somebody else. So they were looking at using NFTs to make sure that as soon as you get it, you don't have to be actually physically present. You get your certificate, and then like, so the whole entire social system could have gone. So I've seen from a social services part, there were some groups looking into it. I think those kind of models can be easily replicated in a judicial system. I have to tell you though, and being a lawyer and having dealt with courts, and you're probably the same, they're so antiquated. Like you were talking about PDF or beds, like how about just paper? you know like there's still so much that it's done through such an obsolete system that I think it's a little bit of an output. But you know what, I'm going to take this offline because I want to get back to you. I'm going to look more into it for you and see if I can get you even connected to somebody that is looking at this initiative. I'm sure they're out there. I don't know how successful they are, but maybe they need a little bit of a revamping or more focus or more global exposure. I mean, this is an international, I would say, milieu that we're speaking to and with. So maybe it's just a matter of pressing, of pressing.
All right, thanks.
Especially for us. Oh, sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
Dels, you go.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, and a lot of people I know in this chat can really speak hard to this. Having moved from Washington, D.C. to St. Lucia, and being based in the Eastern and the Caribbean generally, one of our issues here, and I know the Africans are going to feel this as well, is the need for transparency and the need for minimizing corruption that seems to be kind of like a daily part of the processes in our judicial and government systems. And I think technology like this could provide an immutable and publicly accessible solution to concerns like that. For example, in land registries, which are often subject to manipulation and fraud, placing records on a blockchain could make it, impossible for corrupt officials to alter ownership details in exchange for bribes. And so when I look at these applications, like a lot of them are very fancy, like trusts, like, okay, rich people, rich people, this is great, but how does this translate into our little developing nations? And well, for some of developing nations where we do have absolute problems with stuff like corruption, and that's where that's where my mind is kind of noodling, constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can tell you, like, I know, yeah, and okay. So two things. So one, on the court system, like evidence based. So I think that one of the easy way to get blockchain assets into the court is evidence, right? Make it to be admissible evidence in court, that your GitHub or your Etherscan that shows you, okay, somebody stole this, somebody stole this information, and it's already happening in the UK, where if you have your Etherscan, sequence, and you show, oh, there's been an attack here, and these coins have been moved, or these NFTs have been moved for this wallet at this time. It's all it's all timed, so you can actually have a snapshot of that Etherscan and the GitHub as admissible evidence in court in case of fraud or in case of theft. So I think that's a start. It's kind of like through the back door. I'm a big fan of backdoor thinking because it's the low hanging fruit. How do you raise awareness? How do you get people buying in? Is to show them that it's immediately useful, right? And the second thing on the trust, and this is just for because I am a trust person, but data trust. So there is a wonderful project out of Jersey. It's called the Life Cycle Data Trust. And the government of Jersey basically made contracts with all the cyclists in Jersey. They gave them like a little tracker, And all the data that is tracked about their cycling because of wellness, and they wanted to see, okay, how do we move from oil and gas and fuels to more friendly and environmentally friendly things. And so they track the behavior of bicycle use in the island of Jersey, which, perfect ecosystem. It's an island, right? So it's easy to track, close number of population. But the interesting things is that all that data is actually transferred into a trust, a public trust with an independent trustee, and it gets mined, analyzed. You can even sell the data, and then the people of the island get to profits, right? The profits get all divided because they're all beneficiaries, and there are a whole bunch of, you could say they could go a step further and get NFTs, so everybody gets their own little pieces of royalty as this data is used, or sold, or statistically made relevant, or papers are published, or whatever, right? So there is really interesting populistic, or for the people, I would say, for the people application of trust, that maybe will bring the trust institution from the 18th century to the 22nd century, right? Through things like blockchain and NFTs and things, so that we can use these two technology emergent on a very old structure.
Agreed. And as a trustee, I can definitely see, even just the bookkeeping, just the fees to the trustees, payments to beneficiaries, et cetera, et cetera. And so back to kind of what we talked about, that reduction of corruption. I was even thinking about, especially in our places like this, where there are projects ongoing, like airports being built and new infrastructure and so on. And certain people just seem to get the contracts, So in public procurement, one of that, I think one of the most corruption prone areas, smart contracts ensure that government contracts are awarded based on predefined rules, with payments triggered only when deliverables are verified, that sort of thing. To prevent those officials from diverting funds to favored contractors in exchange for bribes. The problem, and you mentioned this buy-in, right? The problem is, who's going to buy in when they benefit from the lack of transparency?
They don't want it. They don't want it. There's a very interesting question here, Dels. And somebody is asking whether this can apply. Alala Moore is asking whether this can apply to the hospital system. Like all the time you go to the hospital, you have to fill up your document again and again and again and again. So you're giving your data like gazillion times. Could this work, Sarah? And then Camila, prepare yourself, unmute yourself, and be ready after Sarah answers this. And Dels, if you want to chime in after you answer that, then Camila can ask the question.
I actually, yeah, and I think we can all answer with our absolutely, yeah, and sensitive data such as data that is actually protected by laws through privacy and very strong legislation, I would say, around data privacy, especially medical privacy. In the U.S. with HIPAA, and even in Canada, but I would say, because this data is so important, and because there is so much pressure on first of all privacy, second of all integrity of your data, the self-censorship. What if all of a sudden you forget to tell that, oh yeah, I had an heart attack last year? Like verification and transparency, a little bit what Adele was saying before. Again, it's fantastic, and it should happen. We should have a system that it's a blockchain based system, that easily implemented at a hospital level. Now again, the question would be, is it centralized or decentralized, right? Is it something that comes from the federal government or from the government, or is it maybe co-located at a regional level for the health? Every country has a different structure for health. I live in a country that is universal health, right? We're lucky enough, but just across the border, they're all having private insurance. So the buy-in, what Adele was saying, the buy-in would be from the people that have the most to lose, because they actually love the secrecy and the non-transparent system where a surgery could cost somebody $60,000 or $70,000, and it's magic dollars that come from this insurance company, and your premiums are gonna go up. So again, is there an appetite from the global consumer that will be important enough and push enough towards having a more transparent ecosystem, or are there going to be very powerful lobbyists that will shut it down? And I think that having conversation like this with new people coming in, new younger entrepreneurs, new younger users that will demand it, right? Fight for your rights, fight for your blockchain. You have to demand it, that the entire ecosystem of both government and health and credit scores, anything that you can think of could be put actually in a blockchain open format. But it has to come from the people.
That's awesome. And for me, I'm a very privacy-minded individual. I believe in the right to privacy. I believe it's fundamental. Actually, it's being recognized as a fundamental right. It's just not being treated as a fundamental right. Since every single transaction you do that has to do with over 75 cents is going to be reported somewhere. But funny aside joke, that $10,000 limit was put into place in the 50s and the 60s, and you could do a lot more with $10,000. Like, why has that not inflation not been accounted for? Weird. But anyways, I digress. So I go back to the patient record question. Yeah, and that's where I think the conversation starts to be about privacy. So I think this is where we're talking about some kind of key solution where patients could have direct control over their records and decide who can access their records through private key system. And blockchain technology could ensure that only authorized individuals or organizations have access, that sort of thing. Obviously, I know this is a very long conversation with key solutions and whatnot, but it's very, very, very possible. And I believe that, HIPAA concerns could be addressed as well, if that solution is sophisticated enough to address those concerns. But I just don't, I don't think we're anywhere near that, because, you have to think about interoperability between healthcare providers. There's so many of them. We have different jurisdictions to contend with and that sort of thing. So, but a good start for that would be for clinical trials and research data.
Okay.
I think if we could collate, Brian, you look like the angry dad who's come to tell us to go to bed now.
Allow it, Dels. Allow it. There's some questions on the chat, but yeah, finish. Let me turn off my.
Yeah, no, I think this is a really great place to start, because I think this is one of the ways where we could, if we have a giant repository of information, we could really move healthcare further along from where it is. A repository a central repository for clinical trial data, the peer-reviewed papers. I'm not a scientist. If I make any bloopers, don't laugh or laugh, and some kind of mechanisms to prevent the tampering of data, that sort of thing, so the study came out this year, but it's sort of different next year, weirdly. So that's why I think it would be super useful we could start there.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, and sorry, just to pick on something that Adele said, Adela, access, right? So really, if you think about it, not my coins, not my keys, not my coins. Like the point of strength of the blockchain is in the encryption, right? In the cryptography. So having a mechanism at a healthcare system that will have and allow for multi-sigs, so that your doctor has a piece of your wallet key, you have a piece, shredded keys, keys are multi-computational keys that gave access to the right people at the right time to your healthcare wallet, right? And then you can just plug it in, and then automatically there are some codes that comes out, and they can be inputted so that only the people that you give that they're supposed to get access, right? So I think the technology has the ability to come up with the solutions to keep it all safe and private, and patient confidentiality as well. I'm thinking from a litigation perspective, all the data that you create and the point of issue, like who had access, what was entered, when, can be treated as admissible evidence, because it could become a public record in case of a lawsuit. So all of this could actually all be recorded in one spot.
Yeah, but Sarah, I
So
have a question
chain,
for you.
yeah.
When it comes to the wallets, so like yesterday, a student posted here that when they were doing the course with Nino in Nigeria, they were given a wallet and they've lost their phrase seed, their phrase, their phrases, for the key, So what happens when you lose your phrases for your seed phrases for your wallet?
Yeah, so Adele can probably answer better than I can, but I can tell you, like, it depends. Like, it depends on how these seed phrases were created, and if there is a mechanism to bring it back. So right now there is a ERP that actually allows for retrieving private keys. Now, as we know, seed phrases are not exactly like private keys. Private keys are 42 digits, unique digit and string of numbers. So those are with the new AAP from Ethereum, if it was an Ethereum blockchain type of wallet, there could be a mechanism, because they just came up with it. There can be a mechanism to be retrieved. But seed phrases are actually different, because they're actually created when the cold wallet, or whatever the custodial wallet, is created. And then if you lose them, if you haven't taken a snapshot of it, they're more complex, because not only they're randomly created, but the sequence to which those seed phrases, the words are put, are absolutely substantial. So I'm not sure if there is, like there is for private keys, an EIP, but I'm sure that it maybe it's to become, like, I'm sure that if there are engineers out there, that's a good way. But this is part of the problem of those wallets, that if you did lose your seed phrases and your keys, you're kind of like, yeah, that's it. You can't get to it.
Yeah. Camila, you've been waiting
Yeah.
to ask a question.
Um,
Please ask that question, yeah?
well, I'm very glad to be on this call today, like particularly these sessions. And it feels like, well, women are doing really great in explaining stuff. So kudos to you, Sarah and Adela.
Big up
And
yourself.
then the mention of joint repository information for medical, yeah, for medical records. I think it spoke to my interest, because I'm in the healthcare, and I've had experiences where, as an intern, for example, I had access to so many people's data, and I was like, if I wanted to do anything with all of this, I could just take it. Nobody would know. So I feel like this what you just said about a joint repository of information, where you can have um segregated, shredded access to those data. So I feel like it's something I'm willing to look into. So my question is this, about smart contracts and NFTs. So since everything about um NFTs and the how am I gonna put it? Like, what secures the NFTs? The fact that the contracts, the codes are self-executing. So my concern is this, that a layman cannot understand the codes. And so what if your coder has malicious intent,
Mm,
and
mm,
you end up with codes that don't do what you wanted it to do?
mm.
So since the old privacy talks is about, I mean, whatever is in the code is going to be executed, but how are you going to figure, is there any way to have, I mean, I don't know if you get my question. So,
Very much.
the point is, how do you, as a layman that doesn't understand codes, and so how do you how are you sure that your coder doesn't do what you don't want it to do with your code, something like that.
Thanks, Camila. They've recited loud and clear. That's a very good question. Sarah, Dels?
Okay. Do you want me to go first? So I have two answer for you. So yes, how the heck do you read that code, right? Like, so you could hire somebody. So there are actually forensic analysts that you can hire, or programmers that you can hire to look at the integrity of the code. And normally that's, Adela was talking about peer review, but there is peer review for coding as well, right? And then I can give you like a very easy cheating mechanism, especially for private, coding or NFT that you might ask. It's not like part of a big project, but you can use ChatGPT. You can use some of these AI agent to actually read the code and find what's wrong with the code. And we haven't even talked about AI and the intersection of AI and blockchain, but I can assure you that one of the things that you could use, and why agentism is interesting nowadays, is because you can use them as proofreader, and actually finding if there is malicious intent, if the code is actually stealing money from itself and executing different parameters, if you're not able to read that language. So there may be tools out there, but Adela might have more help.
Yeah, so no, this is so interesting because you talked about these centralized projects, and this is why I am so scared of anything that comes out with no eyes on it. And I'm a huge, huge fan of open source software, guys. Listen, if you don't learn anything today, I hope you learn today that open source equals, and here's why.
Sorry,
When
we
you
lost you
have
on that, Dels. Just say open source equals what?
I can't believe I cut out like the most important thing. Open source equals better.
Mm-hmm.
Better. Open source is good. Open source is your friend. When you have popular open source projects like Linux or OpenSSL or Bitcoin, there are large communities of developers and security experts that are constantly contributing. And with that contribution, that community, those people kind of like put eyes on what the code is, and they can fix little bugs and things that are wrong, or make comments, and say like, guys, we need to fix this or whatever. And that in itself tends to make the project more secure over time compared to less frequently examined code. Like, I'm not get fired by saying what it is, but a popular CBDC project. Okay. um that's a problem. That's a problem. And that's why collaboration just actually works here. It's one of those things where, when they say united we stand, where actual real world application is true.
Thanks, Dels. Now, Zainab, I'm unmuting you right now. You wanna are you unmuted now? Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. That was a beautiful presentation and it was quite insightful. So a quick one. My question is, I understand that gas fee in blockchain equals to transaction fee in centralized ecosystem, right? So I wanted to ask, there are scenarios where like you are trying to make a transaction and then your gas fee is way higher than the transaction you're trying to make itself. So my question is there a system that checks or ensures that that doesn't happen, that you don't pay a transaction fee that is way higher than the transaction you're trying to make? Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Is there a system that doesn't ask for fees? So, well, one of the biggest system, and I don't know if you guys were here on Wednesday, we had some guys that were talking that were really into the Bitcoin, and Bitcoin right now doesn't charge you extra fees. They actually just reward you with the Bitcoin. The problem with that system is that the Bitcoin is finite, and it will be fully mined by 2140, and therefore then in the protocol itself, the Satoshi has imagined that protocol is actually going to a fee-based protocol. So I think that the question is, what are the fees for? Like, because I think that once you understand what the fees are for, then you can stomach having a system with fees. And it really is to sustain the ecosystem. Fees, as you probably have noticed, they're higher when there is more usage, because again, the scalability of the system. So as the system becomes more stable and scalable, this fee for transactions should go down. But it really is about, the system itself, remember, is fed by electricity. We're talking about electricity or environmentally absolute data that lives in a world of the of consumption. And so the system to function has to be based on fees, otherwise it would fall apart, especially in ecosystems where the reward mechanism is not as much. Like the Solana reward mechanism is smaller, even the Ethereum is smaller than the Bitcoin, and you have to find other incentives to get the people to still be part of it, to still be part of the ecosystem. So I would think like the fee as like, the right to play. Ideally, is there one that shouldn't have any fees? Well, how like it I would say if energy was free, then you will have a free blockchain ecosystem without fees. But Adele, I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, I mean you got it correct. I think you can also pay on the Bitcoin network. You can pay for to prioritize your transaction more, and it's just kind of like popping down to the 7-Eleven or your convenience store. You're gonna pay more for that bottle of wine because it's right there, and it's way more convenient. And there's people pay for that. People pay for convenience and expedience. I'm not sure if is that a word? Wait.
To expedite the thing.
No long ting is a very long
Thanks, Dels. Hey, we have a few more questions. Chimizi, I'm trying to unmute you, but you're not unmuting. You want to ask your question, please? Because we have Al Hassan and we have Chibuze as well.
Okay, good evening.
Evening.
Start by really appreciating our participants for the wonderful lectures today. My question is this. Okay, I don't want to actually call it a question. I think it goes to Adele. I think maybe a contribution. When she mentioned about the issue of transparency among government officials on adapting NFTs into the system, I think it's all about having a product on ground that should be brought out to the knowledge of the government first, which we know that if left to them, they may not buy that product because it will expose the corruption in the system. But other way around, I also believe that that is the role of some civil society organizations that are into transparency check and good governance, to actually call on the federal government or to actually call on the government to adopt some of these measures to actually monitor and checkmate corruption in the system. So I think the most important thing here is having a system on ground or having a product on ground that civil society organization can actually leverage on to call government to order or to call government to remain accountable to the citizen. So that's why I say it's not really a question, but maybe a contribution or opinion of mine. Thank you.
Thank you for that. But I want to extend what you said. And this goes both to Sarah and Dels, because we cannot discuss this session without looking at the regulatory frameworks, things like MiCA and all those digital asset regulations. How do they sit alongside such concepts that Chimize is talking about? Because for this thing to move from gamification to like reality, it has to sit well with some sort of regulatory frameworks as well.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and our contributor has made a really great point. And what he's talking about is that call to action. I think is at the core of what you're saying, is that citizens, we us can demand that government budgets, contracts, spending be recorded on public blockchains. We're the ones who put them there. They are us. We're the ones who put up with the nonsense. And things like that would allow anyone to verify how funds are being spent, who is receiving public contracts, and whether money is being diverted. It's hard to divert money when it's being tracked and there's eyes on it. Now, I certainly not think that we the private citizens should have the same amount of eyes as the government should, because they have way more power. They've always had way more power than we do, and resources, frankly. But no, we're the ones that should start these initiatives and start making these demands.
Thanks, Dels. Sarah?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, it's about educating. It's about educating the players and divide and conquering. If there was only the ability to send a prioritized agenda to Congress on what the population saw as most important things to deal with, I wouldn't probably find blockchain mentioned anywhere if it wasn't because of a speculative idea, like it's overused right now during this election. It's all hype and it's just to buy more votes. Like, if people were really interested in using and adopting blockchain, generally for re-energizing and reintegrating from an ethical perspective the entire system, it would come from asking for it to be a priority. But there are other things that come into play when politicians think of what's in their best interest to get power today, and easy quick solution to get back to you, right? So blockchains as a long-term game.
Thanks, Sarah. Now, Al Hassan, it's time for you to ask your question.
Okay, thank you, Sir Brian. Good evening, everyone. I hope you can all hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you, please. Yeah.
Okay, my question is, Sarah talked about DeFi and CeFi in her presentations. So there is some time in Nigeria when they launch another, is it a coin, or what they call it, INERA. So it is monitored by Central Bank of Nigeria. So like that one, how are we going to classify it? Is it DeFi or CeFi? That is my question.
Big C, big C. Anything that has to do with the government, it's CeFi because it's centralized. The government controls the quantity, controls the exchange rate, what the NIRA value is versus the regular, fiat currency. It's all, if it is that, it's C, it's central. Like, it's kind of like a central bank, decentralized, central bank digital currency. If it is a stable coin, so if it is something that it's decentralized, there's no government intervention whatsoever, but it's linked to Denira, for example, then it's a stable coin, then it's DeFi, right? So anytime there is a government involved, it's C for central.
Thanks, Sarah. Now, Sarah, I had asked you a question before, and I don't know. Oh, just give me 1 second. Jason. Jason, are you there? You want to unmute your mic, Jason? If not, we'll continue because Jason kept messaging about the intellectual property aspects of NFTs and all that. But I think Jason's sticking, so you snooze, you lose. Now, Sarah, do you want to go through the step things that you normally do? Oh, Jason, hold up. I see you messaging. I'm trying to unmute you, Jason. Okay, wait. Can you see? I'm trying to unmute you.
Okay. All right. So my question, I think it was sort of answered, but I just want some clarity because in terms of using NFTs as a way to protect copyrights and IP, and I've seen some messages from WIPO saying that yes, in a sense, creating an NFT, you have IP over the NFT, but the underlying piece of art, you may not exactly have the IP of this. So I just wanted to some further clarification on how NFTs can be used to protect IP and what are the barriers, what are the parameters, what are the limitations right now, because that's something that concerns me as someone who would want to create an NFT to protect my digital art or to protect anything that I produce online.
Yeah, so you bring up a really good distinction. So there is IP within the NFT, so the code itself. So if it is unique enough, depending on how you define in your country. So it's very jurisdictionally based, by the way. So IP rights are very regional, right? And the definition of copyrights and what's protected and what's allowed is very much like your country. So I can't answer directly to where you're coming from, but I can answer in general. The NFT itself, like the code itself, may or may not be able to have copyrights protection, right? The code, depending on how original it is and depending again on the law of IP of your countries. Now, within, right, that file and your own art, as soon as you create a piece of digital art that is unique, then it will be copyrighted. You don't need to register, you have that protection right away. Now, you can, when you sell your piece of art, then you can establish what kind of access do you give to the people that will own your art to your IP. And generally, every artist gives a personal limited license so that the owner of the piece of art can actually enjoy it. They can display it in your house and stuff like that, but they cannot commercialize it, right? If you commercialize it, you have to pay back. That kind of distinction will have to be delimited and drafted within the file that you upload in your NFTs, right? So there are three buckets: the NFT itself, which to raise to the copyrightability will have to have certain aspects, which depends on the copyright law of your country. The art IP, which generally stays with the artist, it will stay with you, and the person that buys it normally has a limited personal use license, unless you create this piece of art under the CCO or the common zero copyright, right? And that means if you put CC0, at the end of your art instead of the C with the circle, that means that whoever buys your art can do whatever they want with it. They can make as much money as they want and bypass you, right? And you can also have an LCC, which is a limited copyrightability, or a LC, or a limited copyright, where you can specify what a person can do. So, for example, they could make T-shirts and they could make money on your stuff, or they could post it on Instagram and make money on that, but not other things. So you can establish what's that limited copyrightability it is. But in general, three buckets, right? So yeah, I'll leave it like that. I hope this helps you.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, Fazui, unmute yourself, please.
All right. Thanks for having me on this space again. It's just connection to what Sarah just answered, but my own is a bit diversified. Yesterday there was a question on NFT on how to be a collector, and I see that question wasn't answered. And I'm interested in knowing, how do you become a collector on NFT? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much. And thank you for being interested in digital art, because I have to tell you, because of the NFTs and before the blockchain, finally digital artists have become a matter of, that actually is important, right? So how do you become a digital art collectible? first of all, you have to have a wallet. So you have to create a wallet. So a wallet could be either a custodial wallet. So certain platforms that sell NFTs have their own, they give this ability to create a wallet on their platform. So Rarible, OpenSeas, you have to find basically the marketplace that sells NFT art that you like the most, right? Because all digital art is very different. There are some sophisticated centers such as Transfer Gallery. They don't have wallets that they provide. You need your own wallet. So could be custodial, or it could be the Tezor, like the cold wallet, right? Or it could be a MetaMask. MetaMask is a great wallet. It's interfaced, and it could be online. It could be custody online, or it could be custody offline. And those wallets are all capable of sustaining NFTs, therefore of sustaining art. Now, if you're buying Bitcoin art, so if you're buying actually ordinals, then you need a wallet to sustain Bitcoin. So the Tezor cold wallet, basically you can put anything in there that your heart desire. MetaMask will not work for ordinals because it doesn't sustain Bitcoin. So you have to get yourself set up. It takes 3 to 4 days. There is a verification mechanism to get set up, or you have to buy your Tether or whatever cold wallets that you want. Do not order them, by the way, through Amazon. Those are not good, right? You have to go to the actual seller of the cold wallet, because again, your cold wallet is gonna be is what you're gonna put all your NFTs in it. So after you get set up, you you explore the art in these platforms. Sotheby's as digital art that they sell right now. Christie's also, Rarible, OpenSeas. There are galleries that now sell through NFTs art. So you have to find your art. And then you connect your wallet, you enter your password, and then you buy your NFTs by sending enough ETH or enough money. So your wallet will actually have to be uploaded with currency. So you will have to connect your wallet to an exchange, buy some ETH or Solana or Tezor or whatever it is that the platform for the NFT is trading with. And then once you have enough money, then you connect to the platform, and you literally click buy, you enter your name and stuff. The NFT will then be transferred, and you will see the transfer of the NFT through the Etherscan. So you can actually go to Etherscan, or if you have a GitHub portal, and you can actually see the NFT. It's kind of like in a gray status, and then it becomes green, and that's when it actually fell, or it was recoded into your address, into your wallet. But the best thing would be to participate to as many Discord's art channels that you can. Create your own aesthetic posture for digital art. Find out what you like and what you don't like. And sometimes if you don't like something, ask yourself, like, why don't I like it? Because sometimes pieces of art are made to push our boundaries, right? To make us a little bit uncomfortable. So there could be art that you may want to buy and you may want to get, and then you'll get, again, if it's digital art, you'll get your tile and you'll get your file. If it is a piece of art that really exists and it's sold through an NFT, then you'll get your print. So for example, in my background, I have a print which I bought through an NFT. So I got the NFT to prove the title and to get hold of the assets, but then I got the artist to actually send me the print that I bought, which was the poster. So you can buy either physical art or digital art, but the certificate that gives you the ownership and the title ownership and this certificate of authenticity and provenance is your NFT. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, Sarah, yesterday the students tasked us with something which they found very important, and it's like in music, when something like a transition between the scenes, an intermission, right? So the students want to find out your story, both of you as the guests today. Like, what's your motivation behind all this? Like, what brought you here? No sugarcoating. Like, tell us your story. Like, they want to know you. So yesterday we had three guests, myself included, and we took them through our stories. And that was thanks to Obakeng. Obakeng, are you in the house? Yeah, Obakeng is in the house, but I can't hear him. But anyway, Sarah, let's start off with you, and then Dels. Then we
Okay,
get
I'll go
the other
first.
question.
I'll go first. I'll
Yeah.
go first. So, how did it start for me? Well, I was a young lawyer. I started working for the Dutch Central Bank. I was born in Italy, and I applied for, I applied for everything because I was interested in just getting out of Italy. How do you get out of Dodge? And so I applied to all these really exotic jobs all around Europe, and I got my first pick, which was working for the Dutch Central Bank. And at that time, the Dutch Central Bank was actually the bank entrusted with the design and the deployment of the euro. So I'm going to date myself here. It was 2000, like a long time ago. And I was finishing university and I was working there. And they actually I was one of three lawyers that were tasked with the study of blockchain, which, as I said, dated from 1996. And so we started looking and reading papers, and I was reminded every day that you go to law school because you do not like math. And I was the living proof that that wasn't correct, right? You can love math and be a lawyer. So that's where my origin story, my origin block comes from there. And then since then, I kind of kept it up. I was really intrigued. I saw it as the new economy was the digital economy. The new oil is data. And I was kind of, blown my mind when Bitcoin came out. And I was one of the early, I didn't have it, I didn't own it, but, until later, but I kind of followed since the beginning. So, and then Ethereum and everything else. And I am also, really plugged in the art world. So when the NFTs came out, and again, weren't born in 2021. We're talking about 2015, 2014. They were already talking about NFTs at that time. And so from my art background and from my technical, more legal background, that's kind of my story.
Thank you,
Oh,
Sarah.
that's great.
And what's your, sorry, Obakeng, is that you?
Yeah, that's me. That's me.
Did you
And
have
I just
anything
have
extra to
one.
ask Sarah?
I do have something to ask her because I've been hearing mostly about Bitcoin and BSV. So I want to also have a question of interest for her to ask her what other protocols are her favorite besides BSV or Bitcoin that she has personally worked with.
Yeah. Favorite protocols. So, well, Bitcoin is kind of the classic. It's kind of like the academic classic, the proof of work. Proof of work is kind of it. But proof of stakes, the WorldCoin proof of personality, super intriguing, super interesting. There is Solana has its own protocol. The Zero protocol that Ethereum is developing right now is very interesting as well. I would say that when you think of a protocol, think of rules of engagement, right? Like, how is this blockchain system actually working? How is it fueled? How does it makes those block? How are the block created? That's what the protocol does. It explains the creation of blocks and how the blockchain is sustained. So yeah, those are
Thanks,
the
Sarah.
ones that I follow.
Dels, we're coming to hear your motivation and your story, and then we'll resume to the normal programming. Oh, and guys, guess what? Dels is actually known as the Bitcoin Khaleesi. So if you were a fan of Game of Thrones and all that, well, we need to find out why she's called the Bitcoin Khaleesi, don't we? So Dels, yeah.
Well, stick a pin in that. I'll get to that. So I'm going to age myself as well. So back in the early 2000s, actually 2000, I worked on a project. Previous to that, I I got intrigued by building websites, so I was doing that. Taught myself HTML, XML, CSS, etc., etc. In those days, we didn't have Google, but we, you had to ask Jeeves and find like lists. Anyways, so I worked on a project where we built a platform where users could open accounts and deposit funds, traditional fiat currencies, so dollars, and we would convert those funds into digital gold based on the current market price of gold. And each unit of digital gold in a user's account represented a claim on the physical quantity of gold stored in a vault by an independent third party. And so that was, I think, probably one of the very first, maybe the second iteration of a digital gold currency ever, because it was modeled on eGold. And I worked on that project with a bunch of guys who had worked from in eGold. So at that point, this is my Genesis block. I got to work with a lot of very cool cryptographers, including Ian Grigg. I remember that was just an absolute wild time, and ended up selling that protocol. And I went to law school because I thought, okay, what can I do to make my story more interesting? One of the things that I had observed was that a lot of the lawyers didn't really understand what it was that we were actually working on, and the concepts of that, etc. So I went to law school at Knott's. Big up Knott's.
Big up yourself. She's from my city.
And then I went to law school in the US. I went to GW Law, George Washington University School of Law. And I wrote my, what you would know as a dissertation on Bitcoin in 2014 published. And that was a wild time. A couple friends of mine from the digital gold space, had said, like, you have to do this. You can't not write about Bitcoin and address some of these things. And, of course, I was told that I was going to fail. But luckily in 2013, the IRS in the US came out with some sort of guidance. And then it was a real thing finally. It was 2013, 2014. And, my first project out of law school was with the second ever Bitcoin ATM company, Coin Outlet it was called at the time. And I, from carrying cash in pizza boxes all over America, my God, because we couldn't be banked, and we kept losing bank accounts, and no vaulting companies wanted anything to do with us. Again, my background is steeped in financial inclusion. It's steeped into access, and this has been my passion from the jump. That's it, my passion from the jump. And then I enter what I call my chaotic era, which is working with a bunch of law firms, where I was actually lucky enough to start up their blockchain crypto practices. I worked for Cogent Law, I worked for Oster and McBride, and absolutely loved it. But I realized that there was something missing. And I see that someone in the chat has asked a question about what we can say to lawyers in developing countries interested in the intersection of law and tech. Like, keep learning and keep being there. And I'm gonna get to stick a pin in that, because I'm getting there as well. Because after my law firm era, and throughout that time, I ended up working on a lot of projects. I mean, I've been in the space for a long time. I've been lucky enough to be advisors, co-founder, to a lot of very interesting and ongoing projects as well. So this brings me into my other period of the regulatory era, where I am working with quite a few regulators in the Caribbean, in the region, and in Latin America, and internationally, frankly, on their adoption of crypto regulation, even crypto investigations in some instances. And that's kind of like where I am at this point. But this is why it's really important to keep on learning as much as you can, and to keep on engaging, because I had been on one side of the fence, working more with the builders, and now crossed over to the other side, in a sense where I'm working a bit with the regulators, and I can see the amazing disconnect. And you have to have people who are willing to sit in that hot seat and and try to bridge that gap and try to get the two groups together. So this is kind of my mission at this point, is to take one side that's speaking the French, the other side that's speaking English, and let's create language we have in common where we can understand each other, because that's a huge problem there. When the regulators don't understand exactly what they are trying to regulate, it's just disastrous, and we've seen it time and time again. So I mean, that's basically it. And at this point now, I'm in the Caribbean and I absolutely love it. And you know, I'm not a splashy person or anything like that, but I really just I keep on doing what I do because of my love and my belief, which are just stemmed in access and evening a playing field that we've just sat on the wayside of for, you know, time and time again, years and years and years of being kept out of a financial system and not being allowed to take part. And crypto, I think, has been the great sort of leveler in that sense and democratized that access. I think it's very important for us, especially in developing nations.
Thank you, Dels. That was fantastic. And that was the motivation for today. And I'm sure you can hear like there's a recurring theme, you know, like COVID came and it leveled down the playing field, or crypto came, it leveled down the playing field, and people just wanted to be at that
Why now?
next
Why is
level.
my network? Why does it have to be?
Sorry, I'm gonna mute everybody. Hey, Zainab, you're supposed to be speaking next. So if it's you who has that ruckus in your background, you wanna mute till we finish this, and then you ask your question.
Okay, okay. I'm directing this question to Sarah. So, I wanted to ask, what was the major difference between NFTs and OATs? Then, secondly, she used this word, the word IP, a couple of times. So, I wanted to ask, does she mean IP as in Internet Protocol?
Sarah, you're on mute.
Right, I pulled the mute. So sorry. Thank you for that question. Um, so IP means intellectual property, and the question that was asked was about intellectual property rights. So intellectual property rights are copyrights, trademarks, paid patents, secrets, trade secrets, that intellectual property, because they are rights that relate to intellectual capital. So anything that has to do with, you know, engineering discoveries, innovation, art, and all that. So IP means intellectual property. Sorry, I should have used that at the start. And so anything that has to do with the rights and the monopolies that the owners and the inventors of intellectual property can keep for themselves. And when we talk about NFTs, we really talk about non-fungible tokens, which are the tokens. So there are data sets and programs that relate to unique assets. There are non-fungible, so they have unique identifiers and string of numbers that relate to these tokens, and they're different from fungible, which are identified all with the same string of numbers, and they're more of larger categories or fungible assets such as cash or cryptocurrencies. So
Thanks, Sarah. So, guys, we have literally 12 minutes to go. It's a Friday. We all want to go get loose somewhere. You know what I mean? It's late in Nigeria. It's late here in the UK. So, Franklin, I'm muting your mic, please. Oh, and Camila is back with a question. So, Franklin, please go. Then Camila, and then probably three
Please,
more questions after that. Then it's a wrap.
hello, Sarah, please, how can we connect with you? Probably LinkedIn or X, Terra.
Yeah, so yes, LinkedIn is the best. I used to use X when it was Twitter. I don't use it that much anymore. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I normally am very active there. And if you have any questions or you want to see what I'm up to, I normally post where you can find me and what's going on in my life over there.
Yeah.
So thank you
So
for asking that.
I've shared your links there. I've shared your name on LinkedIn, Sarah, and Dell's as well. Sarah, there's something that you haven't mentioned, and I find it important, incredibly important, the succession stuff that you do. Because what happens when you have an NFT or you have crypto and you pass away? Where does it go? Who takes it? How does the law
Who
handle it?
takes it? What's happening? Okay, and maybe Adela, she can be free to jump in, and I'm gonna share my screen again, just so you guys can see something interesting. So just hold on one second. Okay, so this is what I normally tell my clients. Either the entrepreneurs that are heavily into blockchains, or my other students, or my fellow colleagues, planners or blockchain estate planners. So the first thing, the absolutely sine qua non, the minimis, the thing that everybody here has to do is create an inventory of your digital footprint. You absolutely has to create that inventory. And I will challenge you to do that, because you will be surprised at how many things you're going to list there. And really just go list everything you own that is digital. Again, digital, and we talked about this on Wednesday, it's hardware. So how many phones do you have? How many tablets? Do you own a Fitbit or an iWatch? Do you have iPods? Whatever it is, everything. And then all the apps. So you open up your phone and see all the apps that you're using. So obviously you have Zoom, right? And everything else. And then specifically for the crypto, and if you own crypto art, please indicate which wallets own what, because as we said, ordinals are normally stored in separate wallets. Are they custodial wallets? Are they cold wallets? Do you have your key seed phrases and all your private keys? Are they easily accessible? And have you wrote them down in several places? And are you keeping them safe? What kind of licensing do you have? The licensing rights that we talked about, all of that information will be absolutely essential for your children, or your parents if you happen to pass away, because they would not have an idea of what is their world all about. A super interesting thing is that you have to write down how you own these assets. Generally, especially for crypto exchanges, they do not recognize joint accounts, so things you own it in single name. If you want that asset to be actually joint with right of survivorship, you go to your lawyer and you ask them to do what's called a deed of ownership or a deed of agency. So if you want to settle these assets into a trust, you write a deed of agency. Now, wills, normally, that if you are a big crypto dude and have a lot of financial assets invested into crypto or in the metaverse, if you own, a condo near Snoop Dogg, that is worth, a few million ETH, then what you want to create is a digital asset clause in your will that specifically gives your executor and your heirs access, the right to administer these assets when you're passed on, the right to transfer them, and to whom, the idea of who you want to transfer them to. Be very careful when you're choosing your executor, because your executor is the person that has to deal with your estate after you're gone. You're no longer there. Who's in charge of all these assets? Because chances are that if are your parents, they know nothing about crypto. My mom would be like, what? So you have to really either put a digital executor into it, or have powers to hire specialized people that can help your executor to deal with your digital assets. Also, think of liquidity. If these assets have really gone up in value, and by the time you die, in 100 years, they probably will, there's probably going to be a taxation event. Either is there going to be an inheritance tax, depending on your jurisdiction. There may be federal tax, there may be capital gains to pay on it. is your estate going to be able to have enough liquid cash to pay all of these traditional taxes, or would your executor have to liquidate some of the crypto, and how is he going to liquidate it? Getting money into the crypto system is easy, getting money out, not so much, right? And then think about, who do you want to leave this crypto legacy to? Talk to either your family, or if you have children, do they even want it? If you leave it all to one person, how do you equalize the value? Do you use other assets such as real estate, or financial classic assets, stock and bonds, to equalize your children so that they receive more or less the same? Do they have their own wallets so that they can receive this property? Should it be sold, and how long is it going to take to be sold? And do you have preferred platform or exchanges that they would have to use? Also, do you want it to keep it as a legacy in perpetuity for your family? And are you giving them the right to stake it, right? Do you allow your executor to keep up receiving royalty from renting out the condo in the metaverse, for example, or borrowing money against it?
Sarah, Palesta's asked a really interesting question, which extends that explanation. Does it include giving the seed phrases to somebody, like an attorney, something like that?
Yeah, so you don't want to give your seed phrases to an attorney, because they will not receive it. Like, it's too much responsibility, especially if they lose it, or somebody breaks into their office. So what you want to do is keep the key phrases and the private key safe. So I have a client, for example, who's a big Bitcoin dude. He has put his private keys and seed phrases on a gold leaf, because gold doesn't go up, and it's fireproof, and he has that bolted somewhere secret in his house, like literally on the concrete of his home. And then it's somewhere secret, but then he has left a letter, not in the will, because the will is a public document, so you don't want to write anything like that in the will. In the will, you just want to give them the power to go look for them, find them, but all the details are written in an access guide that is kept outside. And so that type of details, it's written separately. And I have a client that keep it in a safe that is bolted in their cottage in the woods. So and these things, I would never have and accept clients' keys ever, because there's too much responsibility. But you can help the client to figure out a formula, a way, or yourself, you can help yourself to find a way so that your executor can find those.
Right.
Good question.
Thanks, Sarah. Now, there's another extension to that question. So Najatu and Edith are very interested when it comes to the divorce, and Edith extends this saying, also, can you use a power of attorney in these technologies? Can they be donated or inherited or even divided at divorce? Is joint ownership even a thing? Edith asks.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So let's go through all the stuff, because you asked me like 5 questions into one. So can they be divided? Yes, you will need a crypto valuator at the time of the divorce. Depending on the family law that your country has, it could be considered a communal or family assets, or a community property asset, or it could be considered a separate property asset, depending on which money did you use to buy these assets. If you wanted to own them in joint names, ideally you would have a deed. So you have a separate piece of paper to specify how do you want to hold the title to these assets. And the deed could have right of survivorship. I don't know the exact laws in your country regarding property rights, but if you are in the US, you could have joint accounts, joint tenancy with right of survivorship. You can own it 50-50, so in a common tenancy, and so on and so forth. So at time of divorce, and I've dealt with a few divorces cases, you get a crypto valuator. You establish the nature of the assets. If was it a community property assets, was separate property, and then you divide it, and then you create a separate wallet for the spouse, and you send out so many coins up to that value that day.
All right, cool. Thanks, Sarah. Now, Camila and then Abdul Jabbar, we're going to wrap up with you. Unless there's anybody with a very pressing question, we are literally done for time. And these two beautiful ladies have maxed out their energies speaking for 2.5 hours. So Camilla and Abdul Jabbar, then we wrap it up. Okay?
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for this, Sarah. Thank you very
Camilla,
much.
a bit louder, please.
I said thank you very much for the opportunity again to ask. So it was just a follow-up question to what I said earlier. So first about I wanted to ask about the NFTs and all of these rules that we said in the contract are protecting the artists. So is there anything protecting the collectors as well, so that they don't have so much like they don't have to pay so much in royalties? And then secondly, I wanted to ask that given that human beings are you know they can politics can always come in when you have human beings in charge of things. So you're saying the blockchain is peer to peer. We have human beings, like I mean the people instead of the government, so they are in charge of it. So I'm thinking that it was the politics that led to the hard fork of Bitcoin. So like some people wanted it to go one way and then some. So I just want to know, like, what do you think about that?
Wow. Yeah, that's a that's a really good question. So let me jump to the first one, and maybe Adela might have her own take on these questions because they're really important. So on the first one, the collector's right. Oh my God, like yeah, what about the collector's right? So ideally, one of the things that you could look at is if the artist has representation through a gallery and the artist wants to create NFTs, have a conversation with the gallery to see how these NFTs could be built to maximize the utility for the collector and for the artist, right? So we're talking about, and this is, I know it might sound paradoxical because I'm telling you to look for intermediation in a disintermediated tool, but in this case the intermediation is really about understanding how you can build the best possible NFTs that really you have the maximum participation and the greatest good for the largest number of people, right? So be very mindful in the crafting of the NFTs who are the people from the ecosystem, from the art world that you want to either reward or that you want to input on. Everybody could have a voice without having a vote, right? At the end of the day, who decides could be the artist and the gallery, whoever is paying for those fees to create the NFTs. But that doesn't mean that they cannot take feedback and really useful information, because at the end of the day, if they want to sell these things, they have to be able to be palatable, to create an appetite and a friendliness for all of the people in the ecosystem. And to your second question, on the fact that yes, at the end of the day we're all human and we're all fallible, and the blockchains that we build are financial systems that transact on values. It's a beautiful question. It would require a lot more time than we have. But one of the things that immediately I thought of was the Easter egg that is embedded into the the Bitcoin blockchain, the first block, the origin block for the blockchain. Inside it, there is an Easter egg. There is a surprise, because inside the actual code, there is the newspaper ad of that day that declared the financial meltdown of the classic ecosystem of the financial world, right? When really the big banks that were too big to fail actually failed, and it created the biggest 21st century meltdown of the financial system, with trillions of dollars being completely evaporated overnight. And I think that that's a great lesson that Satoshi, she, he, they may have been. They're leaving us, right? A memento mori, so to speak. Be careful on what you wish, and try to use this technology for what it was meant to be. Really freeing the enterprise of people and disintermediating it from the forces of capitalism, and finding a new way of moving value between people. So that's how I could
Thanks,
find an
Sarah.
answer to that
Now,
beautiful question.
last question for the night, Abdul Jabbar, please, and then we have to wrap it up, please.
So please stop me if I don't have to ask this question.
Yes.
It's religious. Yes. So in Islam, we have this way of charity, the zakat system. Is blockchain going to be, or can it be embedded into the charity rituals that we have? And the NFTs, are they assets that could be taxed? I mean, government tax or the religious tax we have. What do you think of it?
Sarah, NFTs are taxed, right?
Yeah. So yes. So let me answer to the first question. So yes, NFTs are taxable. So you think that NFTs are smart property, but it's still property, and they're taxable in the way. So they're taxable in several ways. So depending on your country, again, I'm not sure exactly where you're from, but depending on the law in your country, how digital property is taxed. In some places, I don't know, they're maybe not even recognized, but I can tell you in Canada, they're considered commodities. And so the way that they're taxed is really on the appreciation. So I might buy an NFT today, it goes up in value, I sell it, I make a profit. And that when I sell my NFT, that's when I get taxed on the disposition and the proceeds, right? And also, there could be an embedded tax, because if I paid for the NFT, I paid with fiat, with the Canadian dollar, and I bought Ethereum to buy my NFT. So there is an exchange there. And when I sell my NFT and I take the Ethereum and I convert it back into Canadian dollars, I might have a capital gain embedded into that for an exchange conversion between the time that I bought it and the time that I sold it, if the Canadian dollar is either weakened or strengthened. So I could have a gain or a loss on the exchange, and then I would have a gain or a loss in case I sell it for more or less of the value that I purchased it for. So that's on the taxation side. On the religion, and thank you for pointing that out. So I talked about DUNAs, or these organizations that are non-profit organizations. So you could have as you have organizations and association and co-op that are non-profit, you could have the same idea for a non-profit organization. But also, I know that there are organizations out there that accept donations in cryptocurrencies. So, for example, there is a nonprofit organizations, and even the one that I'm a director for is a mental health organization for youth. And when we do fundraising, we actually accept cryptocurrencies, and then we immediately transfer them into fiat. But that's one of the ways that a religious organization could participate, is by accepting donation in cryptocurrencies. So
Thank you.
and I know we're definitely out of time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. We actually are out of time. So, Sarah, Dels, thank you so much for attending this. It's been such a lovely session. Yo, guys, again, to everybody in the chat, in the session remaining, just put your fire emojis or whatever it is. Like, just big up these two beautiful women. They've came through and they've hit it hard. Okay. Now, the conversation continues in the Discord, okay? If you have any questions on the assessment and anything, ask it on the Discord, because Nino and Evan are the ones dealing with the Discord, and they will give better advice. Now, on Monday, it's a double down session. We have Crypto Mondays Caribbean on Monday, and we are going to look into tracing the chain. So asset investigations and all that, when the assets are stolen and dissipated. We're going to have people from FBI, IRS, and local detectives in America, and local experts as well. So attend that session. As students of this course, you're automatically registered on that session. So just attend and understand what happens when your asset is stolen. You're gonna have chain analytics experts from TRM, which is one of the leading investigators in the world as well. So just come and ask your questions. Then after that, we're going to move into our No Long Ting session again, which is going to be full-on regulatory compliance, where we are going to expand on some of the legal issues that Sarah and Dels have touched on today. Like, it's going to go really, really deep, okay? And then from that Tuesday into Friday, it's really going to be building up companies and ideathons and all that. So enjoy your weekend. Have an incredibly restful weekend. It's been a long week. So bye bye to everybody. Thank you. And